Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this meeting. My name is Tracy. I work as a regional engagement coordinator for the Green Growth Knowledge Partnership. And today we are here to discuss about the e-waste. For those that are joining the first time, the I-GO Community Roundtable, it aims mainly to bring all the stakeholders that they support the industry sector and the small medium enterprises to improve their resource efficiency. And today our discussion is about the e-waste sector and specifically the e-waste management. For that, before we start our agenda today, I will give you a bit of like a brief about JJK, about update from the Green Growth Knowledge Partnership. And I will ask Hannes to give you an update about the Green Growth Knowledge Partnership.
Thank you very much, Tracy. So welcome to everybody here. It's a pleasure to see you all. My name is Hannes McNulty, and within GGKP, I lead on industry and knowledge management work. So I'm happy to be able to give all of you, some of you have been following us diligently over many other I-GO roundtables in the last year now at this stage. So I'm happy to give you all a quick update on GGKP, what's been happening over the last few months since our last roundtable. First and foremost, I would like to let you all know that we launched what's called the Circular Economy Leaders Community in June, just before the summer. And this is a community for any organization that's supporting circular economy actions within end users. So that could be with SMEs, but any other type of end user as well. As part of the first part, let's say, of the activities that will be covered by this community is the development of a common circular economy knowledge taxonomy to help support the exchange of knowledge between all the different actors on circular economy. And this is a very interesting project that we're doing in collaboration with Switch Asia. And just to let you know that if any of you are interested in joining the Circular Economy Leaders community or being involved in this new Circular Economy Knowledge Taxonomy development, we'll be happy to have you join. We can put a link here in the chat and we can provide more details otherwise. All of this work is actually to support GGKP and its knowledge management system or processes going forward, because we are moving towards artificial intelligence and linking different knowledge hubs together digitally for automated transfer of knowledge. So we're getting quite high tech into the future. And the work we're doing with this Circular Economy Leaders community, the Circular Economy Knowledge Taxonomy, is all to help us develop a new approach on sharing and exchanging all related knowledge between different stakeholders using AI and linking different knowledge hubs. So this is quite exciting work that's happening and will really be launched properly in 2025. And maybe just one other thing specifically related to SMEs and industry is that in the coming months, we will be reaching out to all the different national cleaner production centers around the world to learn more from them about what kind of business model they operate under today and what kind of assistance they might need to improve their business model going forward. So I will leave that as a kind of a little teaser. We'll be reaching out to different national cleaner production centers, as I said, in the next short while to discuss this in more detail with them. But I won't take any more of your time because we have a very interesting topic today on e-waste. So back to you, Tracy.
Thank you, Hannes. Thank you, Hannes, for the update. I will send you an email about all what Hannes have mentioned about the circular economy, knowledge taxonomy, and all the circular economy leaders community group. Without further ado, let's move now to our topic about the e-waste. Today, we will discuss how we can work together to develop sustainable practices about e-waste and how we can learn from each other experiences. It's a very informal way, so please feel free to raise the questions, to to ask questions in the chat or raise your hand. It's very dynamic, interactive meeting. So now we will start our meeting by the presentation of the reverse value chain from Yashun Shan, followed by the expert, followed by experiences from the experts from South Africa, India, and Thailand. Without further ado, I will ask Yashun to introduce the project about ITO and UPU about reverse value chain.
Thank you, Tracy. And also thanks a lot for GGKP for this opportunity. Indeed, I will just give a brief introduction. And also today I'm joining, my name is Yashun Chen. I'm Sustainability Service Expert of the Universal Postal Union. I'm joining this event together with Susan Alessandro. She is the manager of the Sustainability Services Program of the UPU. Susan, do you want to turn on your camera and then say a quick hi?
Yes, hello. I'm very pleased to be here, and we're very pleased to be able to present our project to you all today. And so that we can move along, that's all I'll say right now. Thanks.
Thank you, Susan. As Susan mentioned, this is a joint project between UPU and GGKP together with ITU, the WE Forum, and the Circular Electronics Partnership. And then for now, we are at this like the groundwork stage in terms of scoping the work project. And also understanding the literature and the knowledge gap, as well as conducting the stakeholder mapping, and later on will be followed by the interview and the stakeholder engagement and communication stage. For now, overall, we are excited and eager to understand what is the ecosystem currently at the reverse value chain stage, both currently played in, accommodated by different players such as e-commerce players, manufacturers, refurbishment group, consumer group, and cities. And importantly, together with logistic and postal players, we foresee that for example, the physical infrastructure and the digital assets together with data capacity of the postal network potentially could serve as infrastructure to make the reverse value chain viable, but we want to understand in detail how this works. And then in this context, gladly, we have Koen join our project team and then conducted the heavy lifting of substantive work. I will hand over to Koen to provide more substantive overview of this project. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Very nice to meet you. And like Yashwan mentioned, so I am supporting this project that is led by the UPU, Universal Postal Union, and also supported by GGKP on establishing a reverse value chain. So as opposed to the conventional linear value chain where e-waste is, well, electronics, EEE, is manufactured from the manufacturers, from all the virgin extracted materials, consumed by the consumers and discarded without their valuable minerals and metals being extracted. We are now exploring various ways to reverse that and actually implement a reverse value chain in different countries. And to just briefly introduce you to why we are using the I-GO Roundtable as a place to highlight this e-waste topic and introduce you to projects. Well, before we move ahead with different approaches and business models to actually implement this reverse value chain, we understand that the e-waste issue is inherently localized. So yes, it is sustained and distributed from a global supply chain. However, like we're going to hear from different country stakeholders at this roundtable, we all understand that all countries are faced with very unique challenges. So ahead of discussing this idea of reverse value chain, we first would like to hear from the country stakeholders and listen to what their demands are, both from the policy level as well as industry level. And finally, all the logistics and data related demands as well, that eventually the postal networks and operators worldwide can actually come in to leverage their capacity to support these country demands. So this is our aim for today, and I'll stop here for now and hand over to Tracy so we can move on to the exciting presentations from the speakers. Thank you. Over to you, Tracy.
Thank you so much, Cohen. And now we will move and we'll hear about regional experiences. I would like to ask first Nujarin from Thailand's National Metal and Materials Technology Center. If you can provide us any insights from your experience in Thailand and your work. Nujarin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello. Can you
Hello.
ask? Can you hear
Yes,
me? Yeah.
yes.
All right. I cannot say that I am expert on the e-waste management, but I am involved from both from the manufacturing side and also from the government side and from the end of life management. So in Thailand, there is no waste regulation just yet. We have tried since the advent of EUV 20 years ago, and right now it's 20 years past, we still have a draft. So there's a lot going on, but in Thailand, I think the challenge we have is I don't know if it's a challenge or the opportunities. It's we have lots of informal players. We are lack of data and lack of transparencies. We have lots of leakage, lots of materials degradations. We have low awareness of the problem, both from the consumer side as well as the extent of the real problem from the government side, I think. And I think like others developing countries, we have weak on the enforcement, both from the budget, from the infrastructures, and also from the manpowers. So the organization who like to enforce this, as I said, they try for 20 years already, but not success to have the extended producer responsibilities for e-waste yet. And now circular economy is coming. We do not have regulation to control it from the upstream, and now we try to control it from the downstream. So there's what I like to call it, there's a threat that we are worrying is about the circulating hazardous substance back into the cycles again. That's I don't know. That's I need to work with other peoples and also trying to figure out what to do with it. In MTech, we are keen of testing. So we have lots of tests around. We know what's inside the products. And we are trying to remove the hazardous substance, at least the Stockholm Convention POP substance, out from the circulation. But without the effective law to control it, without the effective law, not only in Thailand, but in neighboring countries to stop the material from flowing around. We have problem about that. And I think that's the first round for me. Is that enough?
Yes, yeah, we will have time later to discuss and we'll ask other questions about the implementation and government. It's very interesting that you mentioned about the informal sectors, and it's difficult in Thailand how to include the informal sector in the e-waste management. Today we can hear from Deepali. She's running a social enterprise in India, and she mainly worked with the informal sectors. So let's go to Deepali to introduce her project and how she convinced the informal sectors to
Hi everyone. Thanks Tracy and thanks everyone to join this call. It's really interesting to hear about the project and the work that's being done elsewhere. Yeah, as Tracy mentioned, I've set up a space called EcoWork, EcoWork is a social enterprise, and our main focus is to create the space, to create the infrastructure. And like it was mentioned earlier, it's a digital and physical infrastructure that we want to create that will help the informal sector to integrate. So we want to say that they can access industrial quality spaces, tools, technologies, and even basic things like ventilation, hygiene, occupational health and safety, fire safety, etc., which are really missing otherwise, and not have to do that whole thing on their own, not have the whole investment upfront, but be able to use that infrastructure on a pay-as-you-go basis, which helps it to become much more accessible, much more affordable, and much more incentivized for someone to do it in the right way. So with that intention, the co-working space concept, which is very common for white collar jobs, where you have a lot of companies offering co-working spaces for startups, for companies to be able to just start business. We want to create the same environment for e-waste recyclers. And so we've got this space now. We've done all the licensing. We've got the tools. We've got some machines. And yeah, so we've been operational exactly for a year. We launched last October. So we are coming close to our first anniversary in that sense of having really launched. And I think it's a really exciting space because as it was mentioned around extended producer responsibility, how can we channelize funds? How can we create those incentive structures that really helps bring up the sector, in a way that is socially, environmentally, and economically just, so everyone benefits. So that's a little bit about the EcoWork concept. And of course, happy to talk more, but over to you, Tracy, for now.
Thank you, Dipali, for presenting the EcoWork. I think that was the name of your enterprise. And now I would like to invite Susan to tell us about her experience in South Africa.
Thank you so much. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, we have a very interesting approach. We have extended producer responsibility already here in South Africa since 2021. We are busy now developing an e-waste policy and norms and standards. So a little bit of put the cart in front of the horse. A country should first develop a wider policy, and then the EPR regulation would be a key driver element of a larger policy with overarching targets. But be it as it may, the EPR policy in South Africa, their regulations are still very interesting because they're going in a couple of places further where anywhere else has gone, and certainly, in Africa. First of all, we have a clear commitment to informal waste picker integration, and that's actually enshrined in our EPR regulations, that producers have to actually show the government that they do meaningful waste picker integration. We had a waste picker integration guideline developed before the EPR introduction. So that follows directly our understanding that waste pickers fulfill an important role in South Africa, that they have always rendered services, that they were never really compensated for, and that this needs to happen. That's the one thing that's really proactive about it. I'm not saying that's not without problems, and I'm happy to share with you where the problems on the ground lie with this, but it is a very proactive thinking on what EPR should do. The other thing what our government also did was really introduce an element that the producers are not necessarily very happy, but that is aiming at taking EPR beyond just, securing recycling quotas and a little bit of refurbishment. They have actually also required from producers of EPR obligated waste streams, including e-waste, that they need to develop a life cycle analysis within the first 5 years of EPR implementation. Now, this has already started to happen in the packaging industry, but e-waste is unfortunately a completely different beast. So, the government has put this forward saying we need this LCA, but hasn't really been able to advise specifically in the e-waste sector how this is going to happen. Is it going to be category specific, or, to what degree is this LCA required? The intention is clear that they want the producer to think hard and force the producer to rethink the design of electronics, which is really, as we know, the most powerful way, to bring about change in a wider circular economy kind of strategy. So yeah, so This is it. I did a quick pestle analysis because you asked me what the biggest challenges really would be. And in terms of the EPR implementation, so now we have the implementation, but we're seeing there is an issue of a lot of free riders, and I suspect that is something that is very common, not necessarily so much in the global north, but in the global south, that you have a lot of chances, people that simply don't register for an EPR scheme with a PRO. We see a huge loophole, specifically with online imports. So, you know, I shouldn't mention any words, but we're getting a flood of design for the dump stuff, specifically from Asia, that people order in South Africa, comes in, completely flies under the radar of EPR obligations. So that is a problem, and that combined with the lack of enforcement from our government to actually grab those people. I know there is an announcement that was made that government wants to take care and tackle this next, the online trade. And yeah, that is basically a problem. In terms also then the lack to create really economies of scale in South Africa. So now we're sitting there and recyclers tell us we don't have enough e-waste. How is this possible? Well, it's possible because we're seeing a lot of stockpiling happening. People are sitting in households, in governments, on e-waste. They simply don't release it. So we need to really become more inventive on how to go about it. We need to also start talking regional-wise. So we have started talking to the SADC region kind of secretariat to say, can we create economies of scale? Because what I want to see is that South Africa will be in a position to develop end processing technology so that all the good stuff that currently goes overseas, you know, our printed circuit boards, that we will be able to develop our own capacity to treat those and recover those valuables. Same goes for costly treatment. At the moment, we need to do it overseas. So, you know, as we create hopefully economies of scale, it might make sense then to have regional treatment facilities for some of the key pollutants that we find in e-waste. Yeah, and then the other thing that we observed that is also needed is really, we have a highly competitive environment. We have now 5 PROs in the e-waste space. They are highly competitive. And personally, and from the SHRI perspective, which is a project that I'm running, we feel that they should actually be more collaborative in what we would deem non-competitive areas. And those non-competitive areas would be things like that they should agree on harmonizing the EPR pricing strategy, that they should agree on how to establish a nationwide collection and treatment network, and also they should agree on what would a uniform track and trace and reporting system look like. At the moment, this is not happening, and that causes a lot of problems. Also, the integration of the informal sector is not happening as foreseen. There are issues that there is a database where those people are registered, but the PROs reckon that this database is not useful for them because it doesn't tell them if those waste pickers are active. So the devil is in the detail at the moment in South Africa, and we're battling it out. But the framework is there to get it going. And I'm positive that those are teething problems. I would encourage anyone who listens, who wants to know how not to do it, to save yourself a lot of time. You're welcome to reach out to me after this talk. I'm happy to share with you more details on the current problems that we encounter. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Susan, for explaining how hard it is to implement a policy in South Africa and how it's complicated. You mentioned many important points first about the importation of products that they come from different regions to another, and they don't have the same EPR as your country. So this is why it's important to communicate among different countries and to have the same regulations. And I think this is the role of international organizations to work on this and to lead the discussion and the project on how to communicate between different policy on different countries. And also interesting to see that in South Africa, you are a bit more advanced than other countries like Thailand, and you can learn from each other how they have to develop an EPR. I would like to ask the attendees, the participants, if you'd like to ask any questions for the speakers, if you'd like to share your experience on e-waste in your country, or if you are running an e-waste project in your organization, and if you'd like to share it. In the meantime, maybe I can ask Alexander from GIZ. I know that you've been working on the e-waste sector. I'm not sure if he's here.
Yes, I'm here. Hello, everyone.
Hello, Alexander. If you can give us very briefly your if you can explain us the project about e-waste that GIZ is running, if you can tell us very briefly about the project.
So basically our project, which is named Go Circular at GIZ, is hosting or providing the Secretariat for the Prevent Waste Alliance. I think the ASIN, so the African Circular Economy Network, is also part of this. And we have a e-waste working group, and our basic goal is to bring together partners, expertise, and perspectives from various countries and regions together to scale up circular solutions, so solutions which worked in the past and scale them up in various countries. But unfortunately, my colleagues, which were dealing with this topic and with the projects, are on vacation at the moment. I only joined in August, but the basic goal is to find solutions in factories on, for example, dealing with battery recycling of, for example, lead acid batteries, which pose a big threat to the health of people who deal with that in an improper way. So to scale those solutions up and for example, replicate them in other countries, under other factories. Sometimes it's quite hard because, as was mentioned before, the governance systems, for example, EPR or enforcement systems, are not working properly yet. But I think we are on a good way if we work together in a network like the Prevent Waste Alliance, for example. Yes.
Thank you, Alexander. I think Suzanne would like to talk more about this network, and because Ethan is part of the network.
Yeah, and first of all, I want to confirm, Alex, yes, we are proudly members of the Prevent Alliance, and very happy to see that e-waste is in the space, seeing that, you know, e-waste is one of the 5 big bets in Africa to bring about circular economy transition. But I had a very interesting chat, and that was another question that you posed, which was how can international organizations support? And I just want to share with you that we have a very exciting partnership going on. There are 2 PROs in South Africa. They have actually become members of the WE Forum, which, you know, sits in Europe, okay? But what makes it so powerful is that the WE Forum has now started a twinning program. So they have now twinned a PRO from Europe with a PRO in South Africa. So ERA, for example, is now twinned with Swiss Sense. And that makes for a very powerful skills transfer kind of approach that I think is really, really useful. And I had these discussions because Pascal, who heads it, was just visiting South Africa, and on Sunday we came together and we started chatting about this need to really start unpacking, is it time to discuss EPR obligations on a global scale, specifically since we are hitting the wall so often with all those local things. You know, you speak to OEM producers and they would tell you, we do not mind to talk about eco-modulation, but if every country has a different approach to setting the fees and eco-modulation, it drives us up the wall. We cannot do this from a financial perspective. So I would just want to put it out to say, why are we still allowing an OEM producer that is obliged in Europe to follow the WE directive and does everything by the books to jump every loophole they can elsewhere because there is not the environmental legislation in place or they don't have EPR yet. So I would call for a need to develop a globally harmonized approach to EPR and to put the word out to say, international best practice, if you as an OEM manufacturer offer this with regard to a certain EPR standard, that should become the baseline, which is the departure point for any other country. And that could really then also do away with the ongoing dumping issues. And I mean, my colleague from Thailand, she hasn't explicitly mentioned it, but I do know that Thailand is right in the center now after China to become a new dumping ground. And so is Malaysia for e-waste exports, from the global north. And I think we need to talk about it. And I think we need to close those loopholes. And I think a globally harmonized EPR system could do that. Thanks.
Thank you, Susan, for that. It's very important to have one global EPR for everyone and to follow. But as Nujaren mentioned, that it's very difficult to enforce the EPR on local level and in different countries. The policy can change and can be different. Maybe I can ask Nujaren to tell us what are the challenges in Thailand to introduce an EPR and to put a policy for the e-waste.
I think it's the way to manage it. It's not like, there are not agreements between the producers and the government in the past. And right now, since the knowledge about EPR system is growing and there's maturities in places around the world, so the concept of EPR, especially for the e-waste, has been well received, at least in theory. And then when it's come to regulating it and assigning pros, how to calculate the price, where to put the money to, where to circulate the money to. There's a lot of stakeholders who maybe loss of the, loss of their business, and there's some gray areas we have to be clarified up. And there's also, like I said, there's a leakage that's used to be leak, and there's no cost for it, and that has to be taken into account. So lots of uncertain thing about the cost of management this and who's get benefit of what. I think that is the main issue right now. And also the lack of data, because when you calculate the cost, it's not only the cost of what inside the products that are valuables, but what's are not valuable has to be taken into account as well. And as also the, what we call it, the historic waste, whereas everyone has to take into, has to pitch in, and whereas to distribute this burden to everyone. And that's still a big issue as well. So I think it's the pretty much the same as in South Africa when they started up. It's the talking about the leveling the benefits so that everyone has their roles. And another big issues would be on the informal parts. So informal sectors want to get involved, but they also do, like friends in India said that there's also lack of system to support the workers. And if they are pitching in, where's their roles? We also have to think about it, and how's the wealth are fairly separate, distribute, I think. That's all for me for now, I think. Or if you have like question, I can answer that.
Yes, now we open the floor for any question. I can see Cohen has a question. Would you like to ask a question, Kuan?
Yes. Nujarine, I think your answer is spot on. And also just like how Suzanne mentioned, I think the commonality here is actually connecting all the stakeholders. So whether it be a global EPR scheme or national legislation, I think at the moment, even in spite of the very huge implications of EPR or national e-waste or solid waste management legislation, the fact that it actually impacts so many layers of stakeholders. It doesn't only impact manufacturers when it comes to EPR, but the impacts of EPR would be dictating what financing method it will, the waste management strategy would eventually be taking in the country. How will the recyclers react to it? How would the refurbishers that actually dismantle and extract valuable materials from the EE react to those changing legislation? So my question to Nijarine and all the speakers actually would be, how can these policy gaps be overcome in a way that actually connects all the stakeholders? And this is where I also would bring in our EPU project context, which is actually reverse value chain. And for instance, in Brazil, as far as I can research and find from available data, I'm not entirely sure whether we have any Brazilian stakeholders here today, but the Brazilian solid waste management strategy actually now has inscribed in their regulations for their stakeholders, their recyclers, their logistics players, their refurbishers to actually work together to create reverse logistics at the end of the day. So something like this, how can a policy gap be overcome in a way that strengthens the stakeholder connection? And if I may just add second question in terms of the informal sector, Nujarine also mentioned a very interesting point, which is data. Collecting data is very important, and actually data that demonstrates the e-waste flow would be critical to all stakeholders involved. But at the moment, that data, especially in concentrated regions where area is heavily lacking. So especially, I assume this demand would be very acutely felt by the informal sector workers, either from Nujarine or Dipali, if you have any experience collecting these data, e-waste flow data on, or how much of materials that you are extracting from your operations, that'd be amazing to hear as well.
Thank you. Maybe like I don't have answer for that, but in my experience right now on the floor, I see improvements from the push for the circular materials contents in the products. So the producers themselves has worked. I mean, in the past they just produce and sell. Right now there's a movement to collect materials back a little bit. So there's some involvement to from the upstream trying to collect back the materials. But this still cherry picking. It's not a systematic change yet, but I see a good movement so that at least they want the material back, but it has to be in good shape. It's not like you throw everything in the trash, you are mixing everything else and then bring back materials. That's not sellable. In order to be able to sell back the materials to the upstream, to the producers, you need a good way to separate materials. You need a good way to collect everything back. So that's I think that's one motive, but it's not happening in the widespread yet. But little by little, this come in. As for the informal parts, I think it's right now it's in the tip of the levels. It can go good way and bad ways. So when the big firms moving in to collect back materials, if they can collaborate with informal sectors, I think there's synergies can be done. But if they only interest in good materials, clean materials, there will be the leftovers. The informals cannot compete with the price with the big firms. They will end up with collecting low values materials. And most of the hazardous substance, dangerous substance will end up there. And there will be impact by their health impact, or their spread out of the leakage will even worse. So I think now is the good time to look at both way and try to have a synergies with the upstream and prevent the bad part from happening. That's all from me for now. Thank you. Thank you for asking.
Thank you for
I
answering this.
can
Yes,
take up, Koen, the questions you posed on the 2 points on the data and then the informal sector kind of integration through the policy side. So the first one on data, I think this is really something that I know is really missing in the whole e-waste space. We talk about the value of waste, but there's no quantification in terms of what is the value that the informal sector brings, right? Like how much would it cost if they did not exist, kind of thing, right? So what would it be to collect and then aggregate and transport and sort and segregate? So, we've been doing a lot of the data trials on actually all these questions, right? If you had to do a milk route collection, how much would it cost? If you had to do a very manual dismantling and, document it, how much would it cost? What is the kind of materials you get? Does it make sense to dismantle to a certain degree or only at a higher level, right? So I think that data really helps to understand where the value lies and where you need to provide for additional funding, which is what the point of PPR is, right? Because everyone knows that, the material value of, even the most expensive iPhone is nowhere close to what it would cost to bring it out of the drawer, get it into a truck, get it to a collection center, send it for recycling, and then all the costs of processing it, etc. So how can you understand what those costs are? And then, be able to design a system that is fair, because otherwise the costs are always externalized. And I mean, that's why, there is so much friction right now. Actually, one of the biggest challenges in India is, the implementation of the rules. We have very, very harsh rules in one way, because it's written in the law that there is a fixed and a minimum EPR price. Of course, for producers, this is very harsh. For recyclers, it's great because, they have a minimum threshold. So there's a big fight happening. And everyone is fighting without that data. So it's really frustrating because nobody is moving ahead. So I think that point on data is really, really critical. And then, the whole point on the integration through the policy, I think, South Africa and Brazil are doing amazing with, really bringing them into the system. Where we see, and, for us in India, it's actually very different. There is this huge push towards formalization, mechanization, and, completely kind of ignoring the fact that even now, currently 80-90% of this waste is being handled and treated and collected by the informal sector. So what is happening is that there's this huge focus on digital transparency. We have a couple of portals on plastics and e-waste and tires and used oil and a whole lot of other product streams that have come under EPR. But the systems and the infrastructure is not there. So there's a whole lot of paper trading. So, it's I hate to say it, and it's really embarrassing because, it's not something that you can be proud of. But that has resulted in a system where you are not able to actually prove what is recycled correctly. And, it's giving the wrong incentives. And that really brings me to the point on traceability. I think somebody had asked it, and I think there are great digital solutions to do that, right? So we are currently working on a project with a company called Minimize based out of Germany to do exactly that. We want to trace exactly where we are collecting from, how much or what happens to the material, document it. So it's really, really well documented. Like it's really getting recycled. These are the places it's collected from. This is where it was dismantled. This is where it went for recycling. So it's really something that we can, give that assurance to a company who says, look, we want to do the right thing. And, this company is able to see that the right thing has been done. So I think the whole trust and veracity of recycling is also missing. And that's a big challenge given our current kind of context in India. So maybe just, to bring in those points on the 2 questions and, just that's where really I think some of those solutions in other countries would really help. And also we can, like Susanna, teach everybody what not to do. We've done a lot of mistakes. So
Thank you, Dipali, for answering the questions. And it's important to know how much it costs every part of the iPhone that you are buying and the cost of its recycling. So maybe the future, the industry can include it in the price of the product that they are selling. And now I see hands of Brikena. I think you have a question.
Yes, thank you very much, Tracy. First of all, I would like to thank you, Hannes, and the whole GGKP team for having this meeting. I think it's very useful and very important also to learn from other countries, other experiences, and also to learn, as Susanne said, what not to repeat and how things can be done in a better way. I work at UNIDO, specifically on the Circular Economy and Resource Efficiency Unit. And we are also implementing a lot of projects on e-waste in different geographies. The specific project that I'm currently working on, it's called Switch to Circular Economy Value Chains. And we are working specifically on e-waste in Egypt. We are collaborating actually with Orange, Cordon, and Nokia, because we believe that the multinational companies, they have the leverage to also bring along other suppliers to introduce circular approaches throughout the entire value chain. And this has proven to be very, very beneficial so far. So in Egypt, of course, you know, it's one of the highest generators of e-waste in Africa. Our work specifically focuses on ICT and electronics. So we are trying to establish a refurbishment center now to develop secondary market for electronics. It's progressing very well so far. And in my view, it's also very important to look at the regulatory context and the engagement. In the framework of our project, we're also working together with Chatham House, with the Royal Institute Chatham House in London, and they look specifically at policy context. I think this is also very important, and I would again refer back to Susanne, who said the EPR is an obligation on a global scale, and I would really love to see a global scale EPR, which would apply across the globe, because this is probably exactly what we need. Thank you again. I have no specific question, but I just wanted to report on our experience from the UNIDO side, and to thank you once more for this very useful meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience. And it's important to see that international organizations are working on e-waste in different countries and regions. And this, I can go to the burned questions. If he's asking if there is a funding available from international funding for South Africa to embark on a research program on, I assume, on e-waste. So I'm not sure if any of the international organizations here, participants, can answer directly this question, but I'm sure that there are many programs that they are focusing on the e-waste. And there is another question in the chat, Angela, before asking Susan to answer the questions, I will ask Angela. Cannot access the chat.
Okay, I can read it. So the question from Angela is, what research has been done on reuse and repair of electronic and electrical appliances on the ground to accelerate circularity alongside recycling and EPR regulation through the PROs? I think that's an interesting question that you might want to put to the speakers. They might have some insights on this one.
Yes, yeah, I wanted to ask the question before moving to Susan. Susan, if you'd like to answer the question of Angela, and I know you have many other points you would like to comment on. So
yeah, in fact, Angela, I think there was actually indeed attempts made, not so much nationwide, but on a provincial level. Like our Western Cape government did a whole study on the repair potential of electronics in the Western Cape. You know, what is the impact? How much jobs does it create? How much e-waste can it remove? It was a bit of a mixed success kind of report, but I'm quite happy to share with you some of the findings and the key recommendations that came out of this province. We found also, for example, that the repair sector is very exclusively kind of almost ring-fenced by a specific kind of group of people coming from Pakistan, but that was just very interesting findings, this type of specialization. And then the other question about if there are international supports, indeed. And in fact, this is the project that I'm running in South Africa, Sustainable Recycling Industry. We are very proud and privileged to get actually funding from the Swiss government, from Swiss SECO, and they're paying actually in 3 countries in Africa, which is Ghana, Egypt, and South Africa, to further the e-waste agenda. There is this generic framework, which means we assist our governments to develop e-waste policy, to establish norms and standards, which will be minimal technical requirements for service providers in order to create a level playing field and to find solutions for the hazardous fractions in e-waste. So this is actually happening. The program is going to run out by the end of next year, but we have been told that it will continue, not necessarily with the same team, but e-waste will remain on the radar of getting funded in South Africa, which is good news. Yeah. And then the final thing I just wanted to share with you, again, as a experience that we made and from doing the financial research. If you have a collector and you ask a recycler what they pay an informal collector when they bring in a printed wire boards and not an entire unit, they would tell you they can pay them 3 times as much. And there is a problem with that, okay? Because in the past, waste pickers were used to be cherry picking and do the dirty work somewhere behind the bushes for the recyclers. So if you want to introduce EPR that really works, you need to develop a fee system where you pay the collector a premium to return the equipment complete, so that there is no financial incentive for an informal collector to fiddle around whatsoever. And we've done a pilot project. There's one PRO that has actually started teaming up with a scrap metal dealer, and they developed such a system where there's a premium, and guess what? The collectors bring in the stuff as complete units as they find them. So you really have to turn around the entire financial kind of flow. It's very important. Otherwise, you're ending up nowhere with your EPR system. Thanks.
Thanks, Suzanne. I will just, Clara mentioned a question. I don't know if Clara would you like to tell us more about the island project. She's asking if there is anyone know of any recycling opportunity for the e-waste in the Indian Ocean, East and South African region. It's part of the island project. Clara, would you like to tell us a bit more about the island project?
Sure. Hello, Tracy. Hello. Okay, turning on my camera. I don't know if it's going to work. Greetings from Comoros. And thank you very much for holding this roundtable. It's really interesting. So the Jeff Islands Indian Ocean project works on small islands developing states in the Indian Ocean on hazardous waste and chemicals management, including e-waste. And as part of the islands, we are developing a shipping partnership to allow these small countries to export the waste that they cannot recycle in their countries. And so we are actually exploring like recycling opportunities in the region. We are also working with Maldives, and in the case of Maldives, it would probably make more sense to actually engage with Indian and Sri Lankan recyclers. But when it comes to Mauritius, Seychelles, and Comoros, we are actually looking at Madagascar, South Africa, Mozambique, or Tanzania. So just wondering if in this call there is anybody that knows of any recyclers that could actually welcome waste from other countries. Thanks.
I can take that very quickly, Clara. Thanks for that. And I mean, it would be really great if this partnership could be developed. But from India, you know, as part of the Basel Convention, we are not allowed to import waste. So we don't have the possibility to do that in India, at least. I think it's also similar for Sri Lanka. they also signed up to the Basel ban. So yeah, I think there are restrictions in, which countries can accept waste. But yeah, unfortunately for India, that might be a bit tricky unless it's treated, unless it's like really, like lead acid batteries are allowed, but e-waste is not. So if it is then at least dismantled into certain fractions, then it might possibly be able to be shipped. But yeah, that's the status of the legislation in India.
Okay. So now I would like Cohen, I think she'll have another questions for the speakers.
Yes, I can see the time ticking, so I'll be very brief. So I was actually interested to ask Brikenna more questions because she mentioned refurbishment center. And from what I can all see, the global picture actually in many different countries is that the waste pickers and the waste management actors are doing the heavy lifting. So my question, and also one of the focus points of this project led by EP and GGKP, is how can we actually salvage electronics and electrical products before it becomes waste? So before it actually enters the waste management stage, whether it's carried by the state waste management operators or informal waste picking actors. And so, Brikenna, if I can hear more from you about how your refurbishment center in Egypt plans to work. Is it actually going to be congregating your local refurbishment centers or repair experts that were already active? And also linking to that, if we are talking about refurbishing and repairing and overall creating this reverse value chain, and also speaking from clearly from Island's project, logistics will be a very it will be a key word. How are those actors planning to actually fulfill their logistics demand, i.e. Transboundary movements is obviously going to be a big question, but even before we move on to transboundary movements of e-waste, how do those repairers and refurbishment groups actually are planning to deal with moving their e-waste and materials that are recycled from one place to another? So if there's any existing experience, either from Brikenna and the Egyptian experience or any other speakers here, I would love to hear about the logistics related experience as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Cohen. I will ask Brikenna to answer the questions, and then I will move to Najar.
Yes, thank you, Cohen, for the question. A very valid question. Well, for the refurbishment center that we are establishing in collaboration with Nokia, of course, we are, first of all, trying to extend the lifetime of the products, electronic and other devices. So we are also providing some training at large scale, and also we had launched a bidding. Now we have a company selected in Egypt. They are trying to prepare a campaign to raise the awareness of the general public on different thematics, especially on e-waste, and also how can we, as you said in the first place, not turn it to waste soon, but rather try to extend the product life cycle and the longevity of all the electronic materials. So we have this campaign, and also we are working together with Nokia and Cordon in Egypt, providing a different set of trainings. We also discussed with the government in Egypt, because in the first place, it was a bit difficult because the NTRA, the regulatory entity in Egypt, would not, first of all, accept the refurbished material as waste. Now they are amending that law. That's why we are, first of all, trying to build capacities in the country to deal with refurbishment, repair of the electronic devices. And we believe that it's only possible if we do this in the country and we create the required capacity building and we provide the necessary technical assistance, because just by sending international experts once in a while, this would not solve the problem. That's why our approach is to build a pool of experts and train as many national experts as possible to be able to have this refurbishment, reuse, and repair of the equipment. And as I said, it's also for us this dimension of providing the right regulatory context and also stakeholders engagement. So that's why we are working together with entities in Egypt to have a sustainable approach. I hope that answers the question. I'm not sure if other partners here have also experience with the creation of any refurbishment center in any other countries. Maybe we can also learn from their experiences. Thank you.
Thank you, Brikina, for mentioning that it's very important to involve the government, and it's a down to top approach, and to inform mainly the key stakeholders in the country in order to implement in e-waste management strategy. We are running a bit out of time, so I will ask Nujarin to comment.
Okay, I'll be short. I would like to address about the reuse part in Thailand. For most of the products in the past, electronics products or car parts in Thailand, most of the time it can be repaired. And most of the time there's a school or there's repairers around. You can repair it, but it's getting lower and lower right now, the rate of repairing. So when I went out to collect the statistic for the waste, and I have done the lifespan calculation for most of the products found in e-waste management site, we found that most of the products arrive at the e-waste management site in Thailand has lifespan longer than the those in developed countries. But about we have the reuse economic around, it is not the mainstream. So the image for reuse are more like the products for the poor. So it is not a good image, but it's still things are improving a little bit in the sense that right now in e-waste management site, instead of crashing everything, people at some of the modern e-waste management site, they remove valuable parts and they can sell parts as a reuse part. So the main issues for this system is that there's still market for it, except that there's no standard for the reuse part. So when you buy reuse part, you don't know how long would it last. Or when you buy reuse products, even you don't know how long would it last. Or when you send products for reuse, actually, if my refrigerators or my washing machine in my house broken, I can call people to come into my house and fix it. Except that there's no guarantee how long would it last. So if there's a standard for it, there's a system to to groom this. There's school around. There's still school around in Thailand to teach others to do this. So it's just lack of system, lack of platform to guarantee it, I think. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. It's like also of incentives, how we have as a consumer, why we have to buy reused products instead of buying a new one if we don't have an incentive to do it. So Susan, would you like to comment on this?
Yes, just to quickly share with you a really exciting approach that we have in South Africa, and perhaps my colleagues here from the NCPC might want to say something, Bernd and Leander as well, who are in the call, which I see. We have an organization called the National Business Initiative, and they have started a project called IIM, Installation, Repair and Maintenance. Okay. Now, what I love about this program is that it goes much wider. It casts its net about really strengthening the township economy and furthering skills and a wider skill set for plumbers, for electricians, but also for refurbishers, okay? And we have now also started to talk, because wherever they do refurbish, there will be e-waste that can't be further recovered for functionality, so it must be dismantled. So the way they structure it is that they will establish about 25 hubs all over South Africa. And the low-hanging fruits will be obviously to source people to train small entrepreneurs from the townships, but also focus, and that's why I'm looking now at Bernd, because he's driving this program, at what we call eco-industrial parks. We have a huge project going on in South Africa about eco-industrial parks. And, you know, those are obviously prime candidates for the release, for the regular release of electronic waste, but also we have manufacturers that manufacture, for example, appliances. So installation, repair, and maintenance, it should go as close as possible to the assemblers or the manufacturers that we have in a country. So if anyone wants to find out more about the IIM initiative, I don't know, Bernd, if you want to say anything more about it, or Leander from your side. But that is, I think, for us a key driver right now, to push for repair of e-waste. Yeah, Bernd, I knew you have something to say about it.
Yeah, you know me. Okay, so yeah, it's just, look, it's probably broader, but the IRM program, we're actually working with them in some of the eco-industrial parks. DTIC has a particular interest, so the Department of Trade, Industry, Competition in South Africa's particular interest actually in similar kind of initiatives. So what we call townships, I think maybe we need to explain that as well, right? So these are residential areas that date back to the apartheid era in South Africa. And very often what you find is that, you know, yeah, due to many political issues, you know, people are struggling with income, etc. So trying to tie this into those kinds of hubs would be absolutely fantastic. I can definitely put my details down, but I can probably put Anthony Giever from NBI down if anybody wants to reach out to him, because he's got all those details. Thanks.
Thank you, Bernd. Now we arrive at the end of our session. I would like first to thank the main three speakers, Susan, Nujarin, and Dipali. Thank you so much for sharing all your insights. And thank you all for this very productive and engaging discussion. We see that the e-waste management is a very complex topic, and we need a global EPR. We need more collaboration between different organizations. And I know here we have many international organizations that they are working on this topic. So hopefully we can move that forward with the project that Koen is working on. She will contact you on a bilateral conversation for her research study. I think now we reached the end of our session. For our next I-GO Roundtable, so the I-GO Roundtable will be every 3 months. The next time we wouldn't decide yet the topic, but if you have any topic or sector you would like to discuss, please reach out, and we will make sure to have the discussion around the specific topic that you think that it's needed. Thank you all for joining, and until next time, bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All the best.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.